We here at Just One Man Podcast openly endorse people speaking their truth, being honest and being open. As a result, some of the themes that we discuss may actually be triggering for you, either watching or listening to the podcast, wherever you are. Some of those themes may include suicide, substance abuse, and general mental health problems. And again, these may be triggering. So for that reason, viewer and listener discretion is advised. Good evening, good morning, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are watching or listening. Happy New Year. Really hope you had a great Christmas and a really positive start to your new year. Just One Man Podcast is back. Kind of goes out saying that the level of support we've had based off the first episode that we released just before Christmas was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to every single person who has liked us and subscribed and rated us and commented or spoke to us in person. It all goes a massive way. The first thing as well, just to make everyone kind of aware of, as you will notice, we've got very nifty little t-shirts. So a big thank you to, he didn't have his, he left his in the football club. So he haven't got his.
And the guests don't get one anyway.
The guests get so much more. We'll edit that, and I'll give him like a thing of frankincense and myrrh or something like that. But no, thank you to Matthew Harris and Jack Hodgkins and Macron Store Evervale for providing the t-shirts. Very much appreciated. And we'd also like to thank Dawn Bowden MS for her very generous donation for her sponsorship for this episode as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. It really means a lot. And even though we started this podcast from nothing for you to give us something, it means really a lot. Thank you very much.
So you'll notice, obviously, that it isn't just the three of us this time. As promised, we have got a real guest. A real person. We are, well, I certainly am, and I think I speak for the lads here. I am beyond thrilled. I am privileged to introduce Mr. Mark Collins to the podcast. He is a big supporter of the podcast and also of Andy's Man Club and men's mental health in general. And obviously, we're going to kind of delve into talking about your mental health experiences and kind of what mental health means to you, and obviously the experience of losing your son Kerrie around 14 months ago as well. Josh, obviously, I'm aware you knew Mark previously and Kerrie as well.
Yeah, obviously I knew Kerrie, and then obviously got to know Mark through Kerrie. And we've all been close ever since, really.
We have, that's true. Yeah.
There's no falling apart from ever. We've always spoke. Obviously, you don't speak every day. You do get close to people who you live around, really. So yeah, it's quite nice to have you on. And
it's an absolute pleasure to be here, guys. It really is.
So did you two know each other then before Kerrie's passing then, or were you in contact? Or
well, I think it's fair to say we knew of Josh and Amy and the family. Kerrie spoke about them in glowing terms, and they became friends before we actually met.
Okay.
Many moons ago.
Yes, seems a lifetime ago, but it was.
Yeah.
When you talk as well about glowing terms, for those people who didn't know Kerrie, who didn't have the privilege of knowing Kerrie, how would you describe Kerrie? How would you describe Kerrie if you had to describe him?
I don't know that we've got long enough in the podcast to describe Kerrie. He was certainly a one-off. And I think the thing that came through since Kerry's passing, with all the messages we've had and what people thought of Kerry, was that he was the life and soul of any party or any meeting. And when he walked into the room, he would light that room up. He was funny, he was loving, he was caring, and he was just my life. He was one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. I can still remember the day he was born, over 40 years ago now, and it was the proudest moment of my life. But he was certainly a one-off, very, very talented. He was a talented footballer. He was a musician. He sang, he wrote music, and he entertained. And he was just a great guy.
Yeah. Well, it's as we kind of alluded to in the first episode, you know, he to me was one of those characters. And I think places like Merthyr Tydfil, and we are back in the Iron Dragon, by the way, in Merthyr Tydfil for this episode. But towns like Merthyr have characters and well-known faces, and Kerrie was right on up there.
I think so.
And it's as you said, there wasn't much that he didn't have a hand in, whether it was sport or music or whatever. He was a phenomenal musician, who I think was ahead of his time in many respects. And there's not many people, certainly of my age, who you say the name Kerrie Collins, and they don't think of a footballer, but they think of some band, one of about
They will, yeah.
a million bands. But obviously going back to kind of go to that place, October 2022, Kerrie takes his own life.
Yes.
When you look back, was there any sort of inkling whatsoever that Kerrie was struggling with his mental health, or there was any sort of problem?
Yeah. Well, I think to say that we didn't have any inkling wouldn't be true, because in the year 2000, when we were all going through COVID, Kerrie did go through a divorce, and he had and we still have the grandson, Jesse, who we love dearly, but things weren't absolutely right between Kerrie and his then wife, and they decided that it was time for them to go their separate ways. And I know that Kerrie was missing seeing Jesse, his son, couldn't see him as often as he wanted to. And this caused him to be on a bit of a downer, shall we say. And Kerrie did consider taking his life during that time. But he got through it, he got help, he got through it. And as a consequence of that moment, where he thought about it, thankfully he didn't do it then, but he sought help from various different sources. He got help, and he got some medication, and we thought he was through it all, and Kerrie was doing extremely well. He even did interviews on the radio. He did one of these, a podcast with his very dear friend Faith Buckley, and that was well received. And Kerrie was a great advocate for men who had mental health problems, and he did everything he could to help others out. But when we get to October the 18th, 2022, the moment that we were told Kerrie had taken his life was the most devastating moment of my life. We didn't see it coming. It was the day after his 39th birthday, and he had plans to come to Merthyr with his girlfriend Holly. They were one of those couples, as they used to describe themselves. Very, very much in love. And we had plans to go out that week when he came down. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, the events of the 18th of October changed our lives forever.
I think we did touch on the last podcast as well. Me and Mark both said like we both spoke to him on his birthday, and
Yeah.
you know, there was nothing that's
Mm.
yeah, I'm all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be down soon. We'll have a catch up, but you know, it was just
Yeah,
same old Kerrie.
Yeah.
and-
I had seen him. I had seen him a short time before coming out of the garage at the bottom of town
Yes.
as I was going in, and I vividly remember because he had cleared the garage. He had gone in and paid and come back, and he was nearly at the car. And when he saw it was me, he ran back and opened the door and said, "I'm not having you saying I didn't hold the door for you." And you couldn't do anything, you know, and you had that smile, that cheeky,
Yeah.
chappy smile, and you
Yeah.
thought, you know, you can't, okay, fair enough. Do you think that part of that, the impact, and obviously the shock that just reverberated everywhere when it happened, do you think part of that shock then is made more impactful because, as you said, it had appeared on the surface as if the worst was behind him?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was still one of those kind of, well, he's been through this storm, but he looks like he's coming out the other side of it. And as you said, he was very, very passionate. He was an advocate for mental health.
Yeah.
He was involved in everything to promote it. Do you think then that that had more kind of power behind it when he did pass away? That it was that, well, if it can happen to him, then it can happen to anybody.
Absolutely. If Kerrie could do it, it could happen to everyone. And we all know the statistics about the number of men who do take their lives between the ages of 18 and 45. It's 1 every 2 hours.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that day, Kerrie became one of those men. And we have had it described as, I don't know if Kerrie, don't know what he went through at the time, but we had it described by one of our friends as it's like a heart attack of the mind in that split second, where it just happened where Kerrie had decided that was it. He couldn't cope anymore.
I think, and that's all it takes is a split second as well.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, with the statistics, like you said, the numbers that we see about it, and like it is just that split second thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it does change.
Oh, it certainly changed our lives. And I think the first thing that entered my head and my wife Madeline's head at the time was, dear Christ, how are we going to tell his brother? How are we going to tell his son and his then 84-year-old grandfather? And what effect is this going to have on other people? And we didn't give a single thought about how it was going to affect Madeline and I.
No.
Because we were absolutely, totally in shock when 2 lady police officers came to the door.
That's what I was going to say. Is how did you find out that Kerrie had taken his own life?
Well, it's strange, but as usual, there was football on in the night, and it was Wolves, so I was keen to watch the Wolves game. It was 7:45 kickoff, started to watch the game, and then there was a ring at the doorbell. I answered the door and thought, who's going to come here and do this now? Don't they know Wolves are on? And I opened the door and it was 2 lady police officers. And the one lady said, excuse me, she said, but are you the parent, one of the parents of Kerrie Collins? And I said, oh, yes, what's he done now? Thinking he was notorious for his parking fines and he did drive a car pretty quickly. That's genetic, by the way, because
he only parked that way because he couldn't really park properly.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
it's fine.
he used to come home on times and he'd say, I'm okay, I'm parked safely, there's no problem today, I'm parked in a lovely little place called Bus Lane where there's no other cars. But that was the kind of thing Kerrie did. But the police officer said, do you mind if we come in? And I'd totally forgotten my manners when he kept them on the door. I said, yeah, coming in, of course. And they said, you might want to sit down. Are you Mrs. Collins? They asked Madeleine. And they said, we've got some bad news. And then there was a heart sink moment. And they said, Kerrie has taken his life. And Madeleine said, oh, okay. I fell to the floor onto my knees, and I don't know where the scream came from. It was from another planet, and I just screamed, no, no. And then we sat down and we spoke to them, and we got some of the details. And they left, and we just looked at each other, hugged each other, sat down. I said, oh my God, how do we recover from this? And from there, it was just an evening of, right, get some, Madeleine made a list, of course, which she does. And there was a list of who we needed to phone, and we got on the phone to brothers, sisters, Madeleine's dad. We had to phone Jen, Kerrie's ex-wife, because she had to know, because obviously Jessie had to know. And of course, one of our concerns was Luke. How are we going to tell Luke? Luke is Kerrie's autistic brother, who is profoundly autistic and hasn't lived with us for a long time, although we see him every 2 weeks. How are we going to explain this to Luke? And we decided Luke won't know until after Christmas, because he finds Christmas very, very difficult with his difficulties. And it really helps folks when you put your decorations up in September. It really does help people with learning disabilities, I can tell you. But yeah, it was total shock. And I'll never forget that moment.
No, because when, those police officers who, that must be an horrific part of their job as well. You can't even imagine, when they're walking up to that front door, knowing we are going to devastate a family.
Yeah.
That, that's, but then, what's that shock factor, as you said, it's incomprehensible for anybody.
And it's indescribable as well, Mark, to be honest. It was just something I've experienced once in my life, and I never want to experience it again. And the whole reason that we're doing this now, and the reason we've set up Andy's Man Club, is I don't want to see anyone go through what I've gone through the last 14 months, because it has been horrendous. There's no getting away from it. It's been horrendous.
And I bet it was the feeling that you had once them words came out of the police officers' mouths. It was shock, but then there is no feeling. You just feel numb.
Yes.
I'm guessing, and I wouldn't want to think of what that feeling feels like.
I don't want anyone else to go through it. We know people are going to go through it. We know families are going to go through it. But if we can stop just one of these happening, so that a family doesn't go through it, that's the whole point of what we are all doing. And it's just for other people, just don't have to go through it.
Was there ever that moment where you thought, no, it can't be right?
Oh yes,
they've got to have it wrong. It's a different Kerrie. I'm a different man. Yeah. It's got to be wrong. Because I don't like again, and obviously knowing you and knowing Madeleine, I can't imagine what it would have been like to have been in that living room, and then the police you're just left. You're just left with this.
That's right.
This news. To try and digest. And that nothing will ever be the same.
No, we knew that it would, as you say, it was never going to be the same. But I think it was just, as Jordan said, it was the feeling of numbness and
it doesn't actually sink in.
No, it didn't. It
takes a while, because I remember seeing it on Facebook, and like I said in the last podcast to Mark, like we both didn't believe it in the beginning. It was just it can't be true. It must be. And then I remember just flicking through Facebook, searching.
Oh, for I think for the couple of months after that, leading up to Christmas, I think Kerrie took over Facebook. For a couple of months.
Just all it was Kerrie Collins.
And I read every one of the messages that were sent through, Madeline couldn't read any of them at the time, couldn't do it, and still hasn't gone through them all. She said at one time she will. But the tributes to Kerrie, it's to look back on it, he touched so many people, and not just people his age. It was people from, kids, very young kids, and people of all ages, and elderly people like myself, in their late 50s, in their mid to late 60s and older. And I think a couple of things we thought at the time was, and I've said it to my brothers when we met up a couple of days ago, that I'm glad our mum and dad had passed away when they did, because that would have seen them off. That would have been horrendous to have to tell my mum and dad, and Madeline's mum, because Kerrie was ever so close with Mad's mum. They were great mates, partners in crime, and I think she was the instigator of his comedy, because she used to teach him very rude rhymes when he was a very young lad. And as you know, Kerrie was a teller of stories and a teller of jokes. And I don't know anyone else who would be a front man for a band who would sing and introduce stuff. He used to do a session when he was on stage called Kerrie Jokey, where when it's Kerrie Jokey time, what jokes do you want? And people in an audience, you've got hundreds of people in an audience gone to listen to the music, who'd be shouting out, tell us the camper van joke, tell us this joke. They'd all heard the jokes, but they just wanted him to tell them.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of light relief. And that was what he was.
Yeah.
Kerrie would make you laugh. He'd make you furious. He'd make you cry. And I think that's what he's done. He's made us cry an awful lot in 14 months. But we have so many fantastic memories of Kerrie, especially seeing him on stage, because he was something else. He was something else.
I think if we did have time to go through every story, I think we'd have to stay here for a week. Maybe.
You'd have a series.
Yeah, a series going.
Yeah, I've only got this one show to do with you guys.
Which he would have loved.
Oh, yeah.
He would have loved
it. Yeah.
He'd have loved that.
Yeah. Oh, God, to come and sat here to be doing this.
I'd be dancing on the table.
Yeah, oh, he would.
He would.
He would love it. Yeah.
That actually brings me up. We've had a question from Nicholas Smurden. So thanks, Nicola, as well. And I know that Nicola kind of went through the loss of her son in 2019, and she's set up a charity and a support network now called For Tom, which covers Cwmtaf Maganog, and it offers free counselling support groups, help and advice to those bereaved by suicide. And she also provides free counselling to those who are struggling with suicide ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And she's asked what support that you and your family received, if any, immediately and in the weeks and months after losing Kerrie.
Wow. That is a good question. Looking back on it, we didn't seek out support initially. We thought we could handle it all ourselves. Madeline did most of the research on it. I was in a daze. And she's just a wonderful person, as those of you who know her. She's fabulous. And she did all the research, and she looked into different mental health support groups, and came up with Andy's Man Club, jumped out at her from the research, and we wanted to make a donation because there was going to be obviously the funeral, and there was we were going to have donations to something, and we chose Andy's Man Club, and which is something else we didn't realise Josh was involved in at the time. But when we put this on the order of service for the funeral, and the support we got for Andy's Man Club there and then was fantastic. And we did a bit of research. We spoke to people in Andy's Man Club who said they'd also had contact from Josh as well. And we got through that, and we decided, well, are we going to seek help for ourselves? Let's be a bit altruistic and get something done for all the other people out there.
So you didn't think then that you as a couple needed sort of go into a not a charity based thing, and so like something like the NHS could give you, or Mind or something, so you could have couples therapy kind of counselling the fact that you've just lost your son to such a
No, we didn't, John. To be honest, we sat down, and I think to quote Madeline, a day or so after we'd had the news, when we were sat down, we weren't eating, we weren't having a lot to drink. We both lost an enormous amount of weight over the months, and Madeline just said one evening, "Mark, what the fuck are we gonna do?" And I said, "I don't know." Because that numbness was with us. We got through Christmas. It wasn't great fun. We went over to see Luke because Luke's birthday was only 3 days after Kerrie passed away. And so we went over to see Luke. We tried as best we could to keep it from him because we didn't want him to have his Christmas spoiled and to put in, he's got enough to deal with, so he didn't need that. But of course, the people in Luke's home, the support staff, who have been absolutely magnificent. I'd like to add all the staff at Glengarnant, where Luke is. They were superb. And of course, we hugged, we kissed, we cried. And I think Luke picked up on it because we had to do something to let Luke know in the new year. But we went to see Luke a few times before Christmas, and we just wanted Christmas out of the way last year, or the year before last now. So the Christmas before last was what just didn't happen. Yeah, very much so. And then we had to get what's called a social story put together to let Luke know. So with the support of Luke's psychiatrist, mental health services, and so all the support services involved with Luke and the staff at Glengarnant, we put together a social story, which is a little booklet, which has photographs to say, basically it said, "This is Kerrie. Unfortunately, Kerrie has died, so you won't see Kerrie again." And all these, I can't remember it offhand. We've still got the social story there. But when we did tell Luke this after Christmas, in 2023, he knew. He picked up on things that something had happened, and he got visibly upset, but he continued what he was doing, which was playing with Madeline's phone, which he does on every visit we go to see him. She changes his settings, downloads everything onto Madeline's phone. But he didn't do that this time. He went straight to Kerrie's Facebook page to look at photographs of his brother. And we had to stop on the way home because we were upset with it, because we knew we would have to tell Luke. But he's a strong old boy. He's a strong boy.
You obviously have mentioned Madeline.
Yes.
Who I think, for those that know Madeline, she is incredible. She is an incredible
nature.
Like a true, a powerful, strong woman. She's actually asked a question.
Oh, thank you for that.
So,
I kept that one quiet. Okay.
the question is, can you ask Mark why he's so annoyingly pleasant in the mornings?
Oh, we have this wonderful relationship, Martin, and it is a fabulous relationship. We've been married 44 years. How dare you ask me that question?
That's not the real question, by the way.
That isn't the real one.
That isn't the real one.
That is the real
No,
one.
it isn't the real one.
Okay.
You go for it.
Yeah, but Martin and I are two very different characters in the morning. One of us is bright and breezy and wants to have a chat, and the other says things like, and often in the morning, "How do you fancy a chat, Matt?" Fuck off. Leave me alone.
Mark, you've started something
And
else.
there we are.
Sorry, man. Really.
Madeline will tell you the same herself. Madeline is not a morning person, shall we say, and I am.
But what she has asked is, and it's actually a question for all four of us, but I suppose as you're the guest, why do you think it's so hard for men to talk to other men about how they feel?
Oh, I think it because there's a certain stigma attached to the subject matter. We live in a town which is renowned as being a hard town, a man's town, where men don't show their feelings, and it's seen as a sign of weakness to show your feelings. Well, news for you guys, it isn't. It isn't a sign of weakness. I see it as a sign of strength,
100%.
that we can open up and we can have these discussions. And if we can help other men, that's got to be good. So let's put this one to bed, guys. And I just think being a man is more than being hard.
Yeah.
And being full of roids. I'm sorry if that offends anyone. I don't care.
I can echo that, and I think like we've had many discussions, four of us, and with others. Like I can guarantee you, the biggest men of this town are the ones walking to the doors to talk to other men.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Charities, wherever they need to go to speak to other people, they're the real men because they're not afraid to talk about anything.
Absolutely right.
And that's what needs to be done.
And it's like the kind of industry you work in, that I think that puts a kind of a something that will make a man speak. So I don't know, like the construction industry, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, you're on a building site, whatever. You don't see men blubbering
I
themselves.
think it's seen as a sign of weakness, Jordan.
Yeah, I think,
and I think it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, the way it comes across to me is that the bigger person out of, if there's a construction site, for instance, and that one person is struggling, they go to a group.
Other industries aren't available, by the way.
The other, the other people then, you've got the other gangs, they stay in their gangs because they can't do nothing alone. Whereas you need to be thinking for yourself. You've got to look after yourself before anyone.
Yeah.
And what other people think of you, then.
But it could be in an office, in an office environment, anywhere. And as soon as that phrase that comes out of somebody's mouth of, "Oh man, up with you," that's just and it's so cringeworthy.
Yeah, I think when I manned up, if you like, it was when I started to express my feelings. And I've got no problem expressing my feelings of it. I've cried so many tears in the last 14 months. It's probably the cause of all the flooding in the country. But there's been an awful lot of them. And I'm not afraid to cry in public either. No problem with it at all.
I've got a question from one of my mates, from Stefan. So thank you, Steph, for the question. Says that as a father myself, I couldn't imagine going on after losing my son. How did you?
Oh, thanks, Steph.
He's off the Christmas card list, isn't he?
No, not at all. First of all, Steph, thanks for the question. And can I say, I hope you never have to go through it. And this goes for all your dads out there. I hope you never have to go through the pain of losing a child. It is said that it's one of the toughest things that you can probably go through. And I think I'm testament to that. It has been blinking tough. It's been really, did I say blinking then? It's been really, really difficult. It's been very, very difficult. I've been extremely fortunate, Stefan, to have someone behind me who we've mentioned a few times. And we've always regarded ourselves as Team Collins.
Yeah.
And with the support of Madeline, and with my support, Madeline, as a couple, we've got through it. We're not over it yet. It still hurts every single day. And I've spoken to people who, in fact, I spoke to a gentleman on the weekend up at Merthyr Football Club after the game, who lost his son 6 years ago. And he said, "You must know it doesn't get easier, Mark. It really doesn't." And yeah, I get it. I get it. I've also got another very, very close friend of mine who lost 2 daughters very young, many years ago. And he said, "You've got this until you were gone, mate. It doesn't go away." So how I deal with it is I just get up each day, take it every day as it comes, try to be the best person I can, and to try and help other people not to have to go through this with the work that we're doing for mental health support. And on that note, we've got an event coming up on the 2nd of February called TID Talks, which is about mental health as well and how it affects men. And we've got people from all over South Wales coming to talk at that event. The other thing, Stefan, that you asked, how do I cope? I keep myself busy. I go to Andy's Man Club every Monday. I've got the podcast tonight. I've got the TID Talks rehearsals tomorrow. I've joined a choir, and I go to choir practice every Friday, and that has been something I can't tell you enough how much it means that being part of the Merthyr Aloud choir has been of real help to me. And that's keeping busy, I think, and being occupied. It's great to read. I've gone back to reading books again, which somebody in my house, there's only 2 of us, so you can guess who it is, which someone has said, "I don't read enough, you never read enough, you're always in front of the television." Well, I've started reading again. The only trouble is I read the same paragraph 12, 13 bloody times because I can't concentrate. But I am getting a great deal from reading again. And I think the main thing in answer to that question, if you can remember what it was, because it was that long ago, because I do ramble, is the support of Madeline and friends. And I regard you 3 around this table as 3 of those friends who I can always count on. I've got a lot more friends as well, and there's great support.
So when you mentioned then, when you heard the news and you and Madeline said that we need to ring people, and then you rang your family. Yeah. We've talked about how you and Madeline went through it, and then Kerrie's ex, and then Kerrie's girlfriend. What about the other wider family? How did they cope, and how did they kind of respond to that sort of news?
They were all devastated because Kerrie was a much loved member of the family, and as I say, he was the life and soul of every family event that we had, as you'll know. My brothers were fantastic. They were great support and still are. Their families, likewise, Kerrie's cousins were all devastated. And it's how you'd expect a close family like ours to react when losing someone who was, he was going to be the patriarch of the family at some stage, because he just organised things.
It's kind of like on the Richter scale in there, when you've got that magnitude of that one person, you could see how far that travels, how far the grief travels.
Yes.
It goes to the fact that how well Kerrie was loved.
Yes.
And it just goes for miles and miles and miles to a whole town, pretty much.
It did, because when people talk about the ripple effect, you drop a pebble into the water and it creates ripples. Yeah. Well, the news of Kerrie's passing, it was a tsunami from a pebble. Yeah. But it was shall we say, it was a rock that was dropped into the water, and it did create a tsunami through the town. And it was estimated there was over 3,000 people at Kerrie's funeral. Wow. And well, the number of people who came back to the wake, which was held in Merthyr Football Club, the number of people there, they came from everywhere. We had people from Geneva, Australia, America, lots of people from the Midlands, where Kerrie lived for quite some time, because he was in bands in the Midlands. And yeah, we had people from everywhere turn up that day, and it was overwhelming for us.
And then there was a sort of, even though it was such a sad time, I bet the amount of pride that was coming from you and Madeline was unreal.
It was one of the saddest day of my life, I suppose. Was definitely the day Kerrie passed. And the day of the funeral was very, very difficult, but the outpouring of love and the stories that we heard, and some of the things that we didn't know about Kerrie, which came out, we know he was funny.
Standing in a football club at the bar, and I just turned around and I could see everyone in there, and everyone was just laughing so much, and that just goes to show what type of person he was.
Yeah,
you know, and everyone was talking about him, what he got up to, and there was just so many tears of laughter.
Oh, there was.
It was unreal.
Absolutely. And a great outpouring of love, because Kerrie always said, there's a story about one Christmas when Kerrie had a goalkeeper's jersey when he was very small, when he was very young. I don't know, he'd been about 7 or 8, I suppose. And Luke, not liking Christmas, actually went and bit Kerrie on the shoulder. And if you know what a goalkeeper's shirt is like, they're padded shoulders. And Kerrie was hurt. And I said, Luke, what have you done? Why have you done that? And I shouldn't have, but Kerrie said, "It's okay, Dad. It's okay. He didn't mean it." And when we broached this subject years and years later on our Christmas Day, where Madeline, Kerrie, and I used to sit in the kitchen, and we'd have a glass of champagne. Kerrie would have a Dubonnet and Lucozade or some sort of Del Boy drink, which he used to do. And we brought that story up about the Christmas Day that Luke actually bit him on the shoulder. He said it didn't matter. And Madeline asked him, "Well, Kerrie, what about all the things of yours that Luke broke?" They were all accidents, which they weren't. Luke was quite destructive with some things. And he said, "It didn't matter, Mum." And she said, "Well, why do you say that?" He said, "I was brought up in a house of love, wasn't I?" And a house of love is something we still talk about now. And we're still Team Collins.
Well, very much so. Well, in the most recent quiz, Madeline told me and Abby, my wife, that story.
Yeah. House of Love story.
House of Love story.
Yeah.
And it was one of those. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
You've kind of, I suppose, now made it your mission for the rest of your time on this spinning rock, to help anyone with mental health, whether they're male, female, or whatever, and to try and spread the kind of the positive vibes as well of things like Andy's Man Club. You host a monthly quiz.
I do indeed.
Which has now raised over £4,000 for Andy's
last year, yeah.
Which is incredible. We've got a question, we've got a query for you, which basically says you've done loads of fundraising and charity work for Andy's Man Club, and you're a credit to the community for it. What advice would you give to other people on making a difference in their community? And that is from Connor.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Connor, I think the difference you can make is be kind, be nice to people, have time for people, and just show them you care. Give people your time. When people come and ask you a question, just don't fob them off.
Yeah.
Because however long you've got, you don't know what other people are going through. People don't know what I'm going through, or they didn't until tonight, probably, lots of them. But it's just be kind and think about why are people coming and giving you their problems, if they are problems, or if they're asking you for your help.
Yeah, you don't know, they might be asking for your help in different ways that without being, I need your help.
Yes, exactly.
But can we just have a chat first before I ask for your
That's
help?
right, and that has happened a lot, and all I can do is what I'm doing today, and I'm pretty much of an open book. In fact, Madeline will tell you I'm too open. Why do you tell people that? How do people know everything about me? Why? Because I'm open. I don't, and I don't care about that. If someone doesn't like it, well, I'm sorry, you came to ask me what my opinions are on some things. You might not like my opinions, but most of my opinions are founded on fact. I don't make things up on the spot, but I just made that up on the spot. So sometimes I do. Or have I thought about this before the interview took place tonight?
His script is in his head.
Oh yeah, not in this one anymore. I can't remember. I'm halfway up the stairs thinking, am I going up or am I coming down? But this happens. I can see somebody laughing at the moment having heard that. No, I think it's give people your time, and I can't just try and be nice. Life's far too short, as we've found out.
Oh yes.
When you look at the amazing kind of transformation in terms of mental health awareness, certainly that this town has undergone since Kerrie passed away, and things like the impact Andy's Man Club is having. I know even we were just chatting about it before we started recording with Holly as well, Kerrie's girlfriend, trying desperately to do stuff in Eastbourne.
That's
where,
right. That's right.
And even then, when you look at Jesse as basically Kerrie 2.0,
the mini me.
he is like a mini me.
Yeah.
What do you think that the kind of the lasting legacy of Kerrie Collins will be when it's all said and done? What do you think the lasting legacy of Kerrie is going to be?
Hopefully that I can't say we're going to eradicate it 100%, male suicide, but I would certainly hope for there to be a large drop in those numbers, because the number of groups that are open around the country now, we had over 7,000 men attend different Andy's Man clubs on Monday night, just gone. So people are out there, people are talking. I think if the way the Merthyr one is going at the moment, like we had 20 or 21 people, depends if you can count or not, on Monday night at our last meeting. Josh forgot to count himself in the list when he counted everyone. He loves everyone having a go at him, doing it. No, I think the lasting legacy is for this town. We wanted to set up Andy's Man Club in Kerrie's name for Merthyr. That's certainly working. We're dragging people in from further afield than just Merthyr now. Yeah. And between us all, I think we'd like to see a few more clubs set up around the town.
Definitely.
We'd like to get more people through the door to come and listen to the sort of things we discuss, because we're just blokes.
Yeah.
We're just blokes who are trying to make a difference. Yeah. And everyone who comes through the door of Andy's Man Club are there for a reason. I can't say that everybody comes for the same reason, because it's a very varied group. But you can't say, oh, we're all similar coming in. There are similarities.
But everybody's different.
Exactly, everybody's different. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a story to tell. And it's interesting to listen, and it doesn't get spoken about elsewhere. What goes on in that room, in the club, stays there. And the legacy that I would like to see is the numbers in Merthyr, because we've had a few since Kerrie has passed away.
On that note, I would like to say, obviously, I did set that club up after Kerrie's funeral, basically for him. And I think it'll always be Kerrie's.
Yeah.
And I think with his shirt being in the background every week.
Yes.
Well, I said it last time, didn't I? I said, if you think Kerrie's at every meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
That
was said.
Because he's at every meeting.
Yeah.
And he's here, and he's here,
But yeah, that's, I'd 100% love it to be his legacy, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think it is, and between us, I think Kerrie's mum, the wonderful Madeline, myself, Josh, the great people who gave us so much support when we were doing our Zoom conferences. It took us 7-8 months from initial contact with Andy's Man Club to getting it set up in Merthyr. It was a long 7 months, but looking back now, it's gone in the blink of an eye, and we're on the road. We're on a roll. We're a snowball rolling down the hill at the moment as far as the club in Merthyr is concerned.
To wrap it up then, my last question is for the people who don't want to, or who can't face coming to an Andy's Man Club meeting, and they don't think that they can be saved, and they want to, and they think that the world would be a better place without them. What if you could talk somebody or get into somebody's head then to stop that from happening? What would you say?
I would say, and what I'm going to tell you guys now is something I haven't told you before. I haven't said it in club, and I've been there for every meeting that we've had since it opened. That in the last few months, I've had the thoughts myself. I've had suicidal thoughts, but I look back on it and think, I don't want another family to go through what we've been through. I couldn't do it to Madeline. I couldn't do it to Luke. Couldn't do it for Jesse. I couldn't do it for my extended family. I saw the difference of Kerrie not being around, what difference that has made to people. It has been a hard, hard slog to get through every day, every week, every month, and the last year or so. It's hard. But I'm having fun still, if you can believe that. I've met some wonderful people, yourselves included, and the rest of the guys who come to club. The support I've had from the village I live in Hale Gerrig in Merthyr Tydfil, has been magnificent. The friends I've made since Kerrie's passing, the youngsters of Kerrie, well, I say youngsters, you're all his age. The younger generation, the friends I've made, it's just vast and varied. And I don't think we should forget the ladies, the women, because there are so many women who I've become very friendly with, who I'd never spoken to before, who knew Kerrie, who have known me as a person who lives in my address. I'm not giving that out. But there's lots and lots of people out there, and it's not just men. And the strength of some of the women. We did an event in Tesco in Merthyr Tydfil on Saturday morning, and we had as many women come and ask us about the Man Club as we did men, if not more.
I agree.
And we even had some who said, he's coming.
Yeah.
He'll be there Monday night. And some of them were. But, you know, we talk about legacies and what I think about it all. And all those guys who are having the thoughts of taking their own life, please think twice about it. There is a wonderful place where you can come and express your feelings, and no one else outside of that room knows what you've said, and it doesn't go any further. And when you can unburden, as I've just done, telling you guys what's not a secret, because as I said, I'm pretty much an open book, and there's hopefully thousands of you going to see this. Yeah, I've had those thoughts. I've had them. It's hard to fight it back. But I'm so glad I have, because I get to see my friends, my family, and especially that little lad down in Pembrokeshire.
Mark?
Well, yeah, I'm a bit blown away, to be honest. I think, yeah, I'd like to just again say a massive thank you for coming along, sharing, giving your time.
This is what I'm about now, guys. You asked me about it, what I'm going to do, and this is what I do.
And kind of believing in what we want to do as well. I think I go for everybody here and everybody watching, where I can say safely, we're very happy that you're here.
Yeah.
The world is a better place with Mark Collins in it.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone else would agree with me. So yeah, that's time. That's it.
I just want to say a big thank you to the Iron Dragon as well, again, for letting us use this fantastic venue. And they have actually donated this room for us today for no charge.
Yeah. Brilliant. Had nothing at all to do with that little snipe by giving episode. Nothing at all. But yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. As I said, we've got some really, really good guests lined up. Keep an eye on the social media pages. Give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, a rating. We love you. From Just One Man Podcast, Mr. Mark Collins.
Can I just add before we go, guys, give these guys support. What they're doing is fantastic work, and let's hope that the podcast goes from strength to strength. I mean that, guys, and thank you for doing what you've done.
What he said. What he said.
Cheers, guys.